In 1975, with his career going nowhere, out-of-work actor Sylvester Stallone decided to create a dream role for himself, a down-and-out boxer named Rocky Balboa. The Rocky saga began when Stallone met with producers Robert Chardoff and Irwin Winkler.
Bob Chardoff and I had a deal at United Artists.
I was auditioning for acting jobs that were very far and few between.
So he came into the office. He was such a fascinating guy, so interesting, so funny, so bright. As he was leaving the room, with his hand on the knob to the door, he said to me, "You know, Mr. Chardoff."
I do a little writing, too, and they went, "Oh, okay. Well, if you have anything, just bring it by."
We were kind of surprised because he came in as an actor, and we didn't think of him much as a writer and didn't know of anything about it.
He must have had about 8 scripts in his trunk.
He sent us a script, I think it was called Paradise Alley, and we liked the writing a lot, but didn't particularly want to make that the story. So he said, "I have this other story. If I write it, would you guys promise you'll read it?"
I said, "I got to strike when the iron is hot," so I knocked out a script. It just went very quickly, wrote in like 3.5 days.
3-4 days went by, and he came back with 80 pages.
Winkler and Chardoff loved the script. After some rewrites, they told United Artists they wanted to make it.
I was lucky enough to get a copy of the script and read it on a plane, actually, coming back from New York, and recommended it to our guys to do.
The studio was fine with the script, but not so hot on the unknown actor.
They said, "This is great, okay, fine, thank you very much," and leave. I said, no, I have to do this because this is really my story. It's my autobiography, and I'll never get a chance like this ever again. You know, it's like building or tailoring a suit for yourself. It fits you, and you're never going to find that off the rack in your life again. You know, it's just going to never happen. I just said, you know, this is it. I have to go for broke.
Stallone insisted that he play the washed-up fighter. He refused to sell the script unless he got the starring role.
The script was brilliant, and everybody that read the script loved the script.
We had confidence in the script more than him. We just really, really loved the script, and so we said, why not? We'll take a chance.
Can you imagine then putting your bet down on someone by the name of Sylvester Stallone if you never saw him or heard of him? It just was, from the point of view of United Artists, a big gamble.
That was just through sheer bullheadedness and naivete. I didn't realize how really hard it is to make a living in this business at that point.
He wasn't your standard-looking leading guy. He was kind of muscular. He slurred a little bit. You know, guy talk like that.
Executives at United Artists weren't sure they wanted to make an expensive boxing movie with an actor no one knew.
I can't remember the exact number, but I think it came in originally at 2.5 or thereabouts. We thought that was too expensive.
When the producers knocked the budget down to under $1 million, it gave them the right to cast it any way they wanted.
You've got to go with your instincts. This was a fascinating, intelligent, funny guy who looked like a street kid, and yet he went to school in Switzerland, who had stories to tell and ideas to express that I found very interesting and worth pursuing.
Still, executives Arthur Krim, Robert Benjamin, and Eric Pleskow decided to screen Lords of Flatbush before greenlighting Rocky and Stallone.
As Eric tells the story, he ran the film. Arthur, walking out, kind of liked the film and said, "You know, it's strange, that guy's blonde." And Eric said to him, "What's wrong with that?" He said, "You know, Northern Italy, they have a lot of blondes. Italians have blondes, too."
They thought Stallone was Perry King. So they bought the picture thinking that Perry King was Rocky.
Of the three who was there, Henry Winkler, Stallone, and Perry King, he's the only one that looked like a star who could carry a picture.
It was a mistake that opened the door for the entire Rocky saga. With the right actor attached, the film now needed a director. A draft got to John Avildsen, director of Save the Tiger.
An old friend of mine, Gene Kirkwood, told me about Rocky. He said it was about this boxing. I said, boxing? Not for me, I'm not interested in boxing. Well, second or third page, the guy's talking to his turtles, Cuff and Link.
Oh, the domestic turtles. The one on the top is Cuff and the other guy's Link.
Yeah, they make good soup.
I was charmed. I thought it was a great character study and a love story. I didn't think it was about boxing any more than Gone with the Wind was about the Civil War.
He had just made a picture called Joe, which was a low-budget movie that both Irwin and I liked very much.
John was the right guy. He was very character-driven, and Rocky is a character-driven movie.
The director was aboard, which left one big challenge for the producers.
The issue really was on casting, who would be in the movie.
Finding the right actor to play the heavyweight champion Apollo Creed would prove to be a challenge.
We wanted a real boxer. I wanted a Ken Norton, and then he came in, he was huge. At the time, you knew he was big when you could see his veins through his shirt.
Another boxer they considered was former undisputed heavyweight champion Joe Frazier.
He got in the ring with me, and we started to move around. And truthfully, in 11 seconds, I had 4 stitches, clash of heads. I went, this is not going to work. I need someone not as proficient as smashing skulls.
The search continued, and dozens of actors were interviewed, including one former football player.
We had been through everybody. Then finally, Carl Weathers walks in like 10 o'clock at night.
I walked in at the end of a Friday, as I remember, in typical Hollywood cattle call. And I was introduced to the producers.
He's all full of bluster and yeah, talking like that. Okay, where am I supposed to sit?
And I was introduced to the writer.
And I'm sitting back behind the desk just watching this whole thing. And he's reading the lines, and I'm reading back with them, the director's over there.
At the end of that, the writer was seated. I was standing.
And then at the very end, he goes, I'd do much better if I had a real actor with me. So who's playing Rocky? Because he is guilty.
Now, the writer, as it turns out, was also the star of the movie, Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, so we got to hire this guy. I mean, he's the most arrogant, pompous, incredibly gifted, beautiful. I mean, as the character, it's perfect.
For Weathers, the key to Apollo was figuring out how to create the right kind of adversary for Rocky.
The job for me was, how can I make him an antagonist without making him a villain? How do I find the humanity in this man? That's what my job is, regardless of whether he's supposed to be the good guy or the bad guy. You dislike him because of what he's saying, but you like him because of how smart he is. He's working it. He knows exactly how far to push it.
The role made Carl Weathers a household name, and the character lasted all the way through Rocky IV.
Apollo Creed became a part of the landscape.
Meanwhile, Stallone and the producers knew just who they wanted for Mickey the Trainer.
I'd written it for Lee J. Cobb, who I thought was brilliant and on the waterfront, and he had the part. And then the director goes, okay, let's turn to page 16 and read. He goes, excuse me?
I had Lee J. Cobb come in for the Mickey role and asked him to read, and he became very indignant that he didn't read.
He goes, I've done about 60 movies.
John said, you buy a Rolls Royce, you still want to drive it around the block.
Because the last time I read was for a radio show in 1936. So if you want a disc jockey, you should hire one. I don't read.
He looked at Sly, and he said, if I could write like you, I never would have been an actor. And he walked out.
Even though I lost a great Lee J. Cobb, Lee Strasberg, Lou Ayres, and all these great characters, Broderick Crawford, but then in walked Burgess, and bingo.
He had no problem with auditioning. He came in, and we read the scene where Rocky's thrown out of his locker, and he comes and complains to Mickey. First time we meet Mickey. Came to the end of the scene, and as Rocky turns to walk away, Burgess says, hey, Rock. Well, that's not in the script. Sylvester said, yeah. He said, hey, you ever thought about retiring? And Sylvester said,
No, you think about it.
I said, great, that's perfect. You got the part. That's just what he would say.
The role of Paulie went to a hard-working character actor who had worked for the producers before.
Very young, was in a movie for us called The Gambler.
Actually, it was supposed to be a girl. Adrian had a mother, had a Jewish mother, had to change the Jewish mother to an Italian brother who worked in a meat house. You're talking about a rewrite. That's a rewrite.
Just seemed to be the right guy. He was now more or less part of our stable, and it seemed like a wonderful part for him to play.
I was in a commissary in MGM, and all of a sudden this big kid comes. He says, Mr. Young, I'm Sylvester Stallone. I wrote that Rocky. I said, oh, you did good, kid. That's beautiful. That's wonderful.
He was very, very unique in the way he walked, and you could see that he had all this strife in his life, just an unhappy dude, which is what Paulie is, and he represents that guy that's always been left behind.
The key role was Rocky's love interest.
The casting of Adrian, it was a real odyssey. Originally, it was Susan Sarandon, and then we thought, well, maybe she's too sexy at the time. And then it went to Cher. That'd be kind of interesting, Bette Midler.
Carrie Snodgrass had come in and auditioned very well, and we had decided she could have the part, but her agent wanted too much money.
I wanted her badly. I said, here, take my entire $360, you know, take my whole salary.
It was back to the drawing board.
Just days from rolling cameras, the part of Adrian was still uncast.
So at the last second, we're desperate, and in walks Talia.
Talia came in, and thank God for Carrie Snodgrass's agent, because Talia brought the character to life. She was just fantastic.
I cannot audition. It's been my downfall. But there was something there.
She walked in, and I looked at her and went, bingo. She just had the look, the eyes. She read the lines, and she was the person. It was not even a maybe.
I got the job.
What Talia Shire brings to Adrian is a real understatedness. Her characterization is, in a way, key to the humanity of Rocky.
But with the show cast, the difficulties were just beginning. And as the filmmakers moved into production, they were only starting to get a sense of how hard it would be to make Rocky as a low-budget movie, including some worries they hadn't even factored in.
I mean, it was 24 hours of total anxiety. I didn't want to screw up. You know, I believed in the project, and I didn't want to disappoint Avildsen. What if it's my fault that the Teamsters are there and they prevent you from filming? I was like, I thought my head was going to explode.